Plaintiff Julie Lewis says after she rented an apartment with the defendant, Julie discovered that she never cleaned up after herself, and she constantly yelled at her kids. Julie says the defendant was always pawning her kids off on Julie's mother, and Julie's suing her today for rent and a late fee. Defendant Kadra Harkin says she moved out of the apartment she shared with Julie because Julie's mom drank while babysitting her kids. And both Julie and her mom constantly had men over to the home. Kadra felt forced to move out, so she refuses to pay.
Tell me what happened.
All right, Your Honor, I'm a young mother. I have 2 kids, work 2 jobs, go to school. Kadra is also a young mother. She works and goes to school. She needed help. I decided that, I would try it out. I was really leery of getting a roommate, but she was always friendly to me at school, very nice. So I decided to move in with her. We moved in, I started seeing a pattern with her. She was messy, she didn't clean up after herself. She would yell at her kids constantly. She'd put them to sleep, and when she wasn't there, she would pawn them off on my mom. She was taking advantage of my mom, leaving her kids with my mom all the time.
Did you mention these things to her?
We did talk a few times, but towards...
What would she say?
Yelling at her kids. I can't really tell her what to do with her own kids, so I didn't say anything about that.
Well, if it interferes with your living environment in which you're paying rent toward, you can. What else? How about dumping them on your mother?
I don't think she listened to me as well. I told my mom to say something to her. I don't know if my mom ever did, because she's nice.
But it kept happening?
Yeah, my mom's a very nice woman, and she loves kids, so she'd always say yes.
Let me give you some advice. Okay. In the future, when someone is, you believe, using you, and you don't like what they're doing, mention it to them.
All right.
Let me give you some advice. In the future, when someone is, you believe, using you, and you don't like what they're doing, mention it to them.
All right.
Plaintiff Julie Lewis is suing her former roommate, who claims Julie's mother was often drunk while babysitting her children.
Let me hear from you.
All right, Your Honor.
She says that you were nasty, and in terms of didn't like to clean up at the house. You yelled at your kids all the time, and you dumped them off on her mother.
Your Honor, first of all, I was never home to clean up, and when I was, it was usually at night.
Then it would be dirty if you're never there to clean it up.
Yeah, between school and work, I was hardly ever home. And I am not the only one who is guilty of yelling at my kids, although, yes, I did raise my voice to them.
And mine as well.
Let her finish.
It was nowhere near to the extent of Julie and her mother with her kids. With her and her kids, it was constant, and it got to the point to where I needed a break when I was dealing with my kids because of all the chaos. So I would walk away for a few minutes. Sometimes it would be up to a half hour, 45 minutes, so I could calm down and recollect myself so I could do what I needed to do with my kids.
Okay.
As far as the overnight stuff goes, it wasn't all the time. It was only occasionally, and I would clear it with her mother first.
Mm-hmm. Tell me how she owes you for rent.
We moved in, we had a 6-month lease together.
What was the agreement?
The rent was $11.95, so I paid $600, she paid $595. Our lease was up August 20th, and she started slowly moving her stuff out in July. I kind of had a feeling she was going to be moving out. Mm-hmm. She didn't say anything to me. She just moved boxes out when I wasn't there. She told my mom she was just putting them in storage. I'm pretty sure that wasn't true. And I have a message from her saying that she's going to pay the rent. Our rent was due on the 5th. So it was late. I got a late fee, and I had to pay it all.
Okay. Ma'am, what do you say?
Your Honor, first of all, the reason why I moved out was because of the living conditions. Julie and her mother both would occasionally have men over.
Oh, her mother lived there?
No,
yes, Your Honor.
No, she didn't.
All right. So you moved because what?
I moved because despite everything that was going on, going through a divorce and everything else, because I had asked her mother that while her boyfriend was over there to not drink if she was watching my children. I'd come home, she'd still smell like alcohol, and it just wasn't a good environment. Plus, I wasn't 100% sure of her mother's boyfriend, who would stay there from Friday until Monday, most weekends.
Okay, what about her?
As far as Miss Lewis goes, whenever she had the time off, she would go out, she would drink, party, come home.
That's not true at all.
Whenever she wanted, and if she even came home at all. Okay. And when she did come home, it was loud, and if I had my kids, one of them would end up waking up.
How often would she wake you up?
Maybe once every couple of weekends.
Once every couple of weekends, she'd wake you up at night?
Yes, Your Honor.
I should move right now. I should leave my house right now, because my kids come in waking me up every weekend. Sometimes twice a week. We'll move and not pay my rent. That's a good scam.
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily just the waking up. It was the fact that I was trying to get back on my feet and trying to, push myself to move through this, getting divorced and everything else, because my ex-husband completely blindsided me with it because I was under the understanding
what did that have to do with you moving?
I mean, because I was trying to get everything back together and start a new life. And
yeah, but why would you breach your agreement? You have a lease and you broke it. So don't you think that that's wrong?
Yes, Your Honor, I do think it's wrong, but considering the conditions of having my children being watched by somebody who would drink. Yes, but having them watched by her mother.
She did it more than once?
Yes,
You shouldn't have let her watch them after the one time. That's child neglect.
Your Honor, I didn't have a choice.
You come in and your child is being kept by a woman who is drunk, you don't give them another chance. So that was your fault just as much as hers. Any other reason that you broke the lease?
That, and it was the constant yelling and screaming at her kids.
And you never yelled and screamed at yours?
I raised my voice to them, but it wasn't always.
That's called yelling. Now, so you moved when, ma'am?
I had a conversation with Julie's mother, telling her at the end of June, beginning of July, that I was not going to be there in August because I couldn't handle the chaos.
Did you have a conversation with her?
No, because because she was either working at school or she was sleeping.
You never saw her to tell her? How long did you live there?
I lived there for about 5 months.
You never saw her in 5 months? Never saw her face?
I saw her, Your Honor.
So
but
you just told me you didn't?
At the time, she wasn't speaking to me. It seemed like she was.
For 5 months, she never spoke? Hello?
Yes, Your Honor, we spoke.
For 5 months, she never spoke?
No, we spoke occasionally.
Okay, why didn't you mention it when you were speaking?
Because at the time, I thought I could make it through it until the end of June, and I just had enough and couldn't deal with it because...
So you never saw her in the month of June?
Hardly ever.
Hardly. That means, yes, you did.
Plaintiff Julie Lewis is suing her former roommate, who claims Julie's mother was often drunk while babysitting her children.
Why didn't you mention it to her during the month of June when you saw her?
Because for some reason we weren't talking.
Never talked to her in the whole month of June, never said a word to her?
Doesn't seem like it.
Pardon me?
Doesn't seem like it, Your Honor.
Doesn't seem like it. See how you're going up the middle, splitting your words? That's called lying. Your defense is what we call constructive eviction, meaning the environment was so abhorrent and so unlivable, for lack of a better term, that you had to move out. I don't believe that the environment was so unlivable that you had to move, and therefore I'm going to grant her judgment. $715 is your judgment. Have a good day.
Thank you. First of all, my mom's not a drunk. Yes, she does drink. She's a 45-year-old woman. She's allowed to. I'm pretty sure she can handle her alcohol.
Honestly, I get kids being energetic and loud, but letting them just completely run around the house and do whatever they want, that's not necessarily, disciplining your kids or anything.